we are just people trying to help each other home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's actually like really cool.
Cool. Welcome everyone to episode 15 of Grit and Grace, or 14 because it's David's favorite number. I'm here with literally probably my mother's favorite person. It probably goes Jesus, David Butler,
You.
and then maybe me. I might be in there, but he's pretty much one of the biggest influencers of Jesus, period. And not just within the LDS community, I think just period of Jesus.
Dude, that's really nice.
And so thank you so much for coming on. Like
Thanks.
this is a dream for me, actually.
Oh, I love it. I already
really
love
is.
it.
Can you just introduce yourself and where you're from, just everything, just in general?
Yeah, sure. I need a better introduction. Someone just asked me for a bio the other day, and I was like, I hate them. I think they're so dumb. But not that your question was dumb.
No, you're good.
By the way, I grew up in Texas. I'm super proud of that. Like most people who grew up in Texas are, just right outside of Houston.
Everything's bigger there.
A place called Sugarland.
My cousins live in Katy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not as cool as Sugarland, but
Yep,
right? Like you hear Sugarland and you wish you were from it. And I just and then I moved up here for school right after I graduated and kind of been here. I love being here. I'm married. I have 6 kids. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 10. And then I just like a lot of things. Like if someone asks like, what's your favorite music? I don't have favorite music because I feel like I'm just like, I just like whatever a good song is. And I feel like that's kind of like my life too.
Really?
It's like, what do you like to do? It's like, whatever's next and interesting and intriguing and.
You're kind of everywhere.
Yeah,
you're like the
like
Catholic
said,
God, everywhere at once, but nowhere at all. You're just there.
Bro. You're really elevating me today. But like you said, I do a lot of writing and teaching and podcasting, and I taught religion classes for a long time, full time. In the LDS church, we have something called seminary, where kids in high school can leave school and they go and learn scripture, and I taught that for a while. And then just been doing it online on Instagram, YouTube, podcasting for the last several years. And anyways, and then just always curious what's next. I just got back from India, and there was this kid who was there I met, and he was, like we said, like we met under crazy circumstances. He used to be like, okay, so this dude like left home, ran away from home when he was like 6 years old. And in India, there's like, they say about 1 million kids who like live on the streets, like in the train stations. Like, have you ever seen the movie Lion?
Oh no, I haven't seen Lion, but I've seen Slumdog Millionaire.
Well, kind of like that. But Lion is like a little bit more like this guy's life, where you're just like, these kids either got lost or taken or stolen or ran away because they felt like they were a burden to their family. And then they just live in these child gangs, like in the streets of Delhi and in the train station. Anyways, this guy used to be one of those kids, but stumbled upon someone who helped him like get an education, and he got out of that. And now he does the same thing for other kids. So he was giving us a tour of like, this is where I lived in the train station. This is where I used to run from the police. This is where we used to like... Anyways, this back alley tour of Delhi, which was actually super rad. Really long intro to say that. Then he introduced us to this kid who was the same as him. So he's trying to like help other kids get out of it. And so I met this kid, and we just sat down. And right when we sat down, he like scooted up real close to me, and he was like, "What is your dream?" And I was like, "Oh, like, I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure it out." So, first of all, I thought it was the cutest question there ever was in the history of the world.
That's his question.
Yeah,
that he
his
chose
first
to
question. We just met, and he was like, "What's your dream?" And I was like, "I love you so much." So I am a dreamer, you know.
Yeah.
And right now I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm just trying to, what's next? I'm always kind of thinking that. So.
You're always thinking, what's next?
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know why this question came to my mind, but have you always been? I feel like the way you use your words is so powerful, and I think words are really powerful, period.
Yeah.
And I think there is a weird culture where they start to make actions speak louder words, which is true. But I
Yeah.
think words have a lot of impact and a lot of power. And your words and the way you're eloquent with the way you put things is really amazing. Have
That's
you
nice.
always been that way with words? Like, is that a gift or something that you've developed of how you put things? Like, even a simple post that you post on Instagram, the way you word it is like, it's like, whoa.
Whoa, that's super
There's
nice.
no one else that can word things like that.
There's plenty.
You're able to
But-
vocalize things of the soul that I feel like not a lot of people can.
Oh, dude, that's super nice. I think I liked writing when I was younger.
Uh-huh.
Like I took this creative writing class in high school, mostly because the teacher, I needed the credits. It was like my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher was kind of hippie. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And she said, like day one of class, you're going to just write something every single week. And I want you to write wherever you are most inspired. And I was like, oh, that is going to be Chick-fil-A for me every single day. And so I took the class because I was like, you don't even have to go. Like, this is awesome. And like one time I turned in a crumbled up piece of paper because I forgot to do the assignment. But I was like, this will pass as art.
Yeah.
And she like loved it. She
No
was like,
way.
yo, yeah.
Yeah.
But I started to like write, and I actually started to kind of write poetry, and even when I was younger than that, I remember like in like 4th or 5th grade, I like would write these made up stories, like short stories, like fantasy stories about like my teachers, and like I remember like my art teacher, I said like she had this magic paintbrush, and whatever she painted would come to life. And anyways, so I've always really liked words, and I've liked writing. I've always loved lyrics or like lines in movies.
Like mantras.
Yeah,
quotes.
Quotes, yeah.
Quotes, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not, I could get into mantras.
What is I don't even know what
I don't even, I actually don't.
I'll be honest. It sounded cool.
I was like, I'm not really sure what, I thought, right when you said, I thought a mantra was like, what are those things you say in the mirror to make yourself feel better?
I think those are affirmations.
Affirmations. Whoops, that's where I went.
I think is it a mantra?
A mantra, I think, is like your like line you live by. Yeah. If it's that, I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm not really into affirmations. Maybe I could be or something. I'm not dogging them, but that's where I thought you were going with that. But yeah. I love the way people word things, and and they stick in my head. Like 70% of my conversations with my brother are movie quotes.
Wow.
Where they just like, but like there's like lines or from books or movies that are really good. I just, like the other day, have you ever been to that place in the Riverwoods Mall, Moon's Rare Books?
Is that the one with like he has all the artifacts in the Book of Mormon?
Yeah,
and, like, all the
but like
old,
movie
Lord of the
stuff
Rings.
and
Yeah.
Dude, this place is super cool.
It actually is so cool.
Anyways, he has this dress from Queen Victoria, who, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know who she is.
Yeah,
but,
I have no clue. I've heard her name many times. I'm on the same way.
I feel like she's famous. And so I was like, when they had it, I was like, wow.
You're so involved in the hype. The Queen Victoria. You're like,
her dress? And then they also have this note from her that she wrote to someone. And she signed all of her letters with every good wish. And I have stolen that from her without any...
Really?
Yeah, without any reference that it came from her. Because like... So that's like an idea, like, I saw that line, and I was like, that's such a cool line. I want to end every letter I ever write with every good wish.
But you build off of, like, it feels as though, like, you can build, and this is why my mom always, like, I'm going to shout at my mom, but she always says, she's always like, you could be the next David Butler. And I'm like, what the? That's weird. Like, first of all, that's weird. But I understand what you mean. Like, when you hear a phrase, you hear something, and it's like you don't just hear it, you like feel it, and it like is in your soul. And then once it's in your soul, you can like use it and explain things and stories and lessons, which I think Jesus did, obviously.
Yeah.
But you're really good at that because you always have like every lesson. I feel like you have one thing that happened in your life. And then you can expound that to the scriptures, to stories, to so many other things, which is really cool. First of all, it's amazing. It's a gift, I think.
Yeah, maybe so. I was actually talking to Jenny, that's my wife, today about that.
By the way, where's the wedding ring at?
You know,
All these mothers love you, David, and they're gonna be looking at that left hand, no ring.
yeah, I'm off the market. I just need you to know I'm off the market. I sometimes I just change fingers all the
Really?
time with whatever I'm
Yeah.
wearing. I don't have an official wedding ring. I
Really?
lost it within a week.
Oh, good.
So, which is usually the tail with most of my rings and necklaces or bracelets or whatever.
Yeah.
I just find new ones, and this one I got at Mother Teresa's house in Calcutta, India.
Wow.
Bro, I'm gonna take you there someday. I've just decided.
I would love.
It was so inspiring.
So was India? And I'm gonna be just so transparent. India's probably the last on my list of places to go.
Oh, really? I'm super surprised by that. I don't know why. We don't know each other that well, but it was so intriguing to me because
Really?
it feels so different and it feels so exotic. It's not relaxing, but it's like it's wild.
Yeah.
And there's so many sounds and colors and like
smells, probably.
smells that you're just like, especially like I have ADD, and so it was perfect for me because there was always like something like capturing my attention and was. But I've talked to a lot of people who are not interested in India.
I think being in sales, they're sometimes really hard. That culture is extreme. So it there's something, and maybe it's like, I don't know, it just seems like really, but I like how the way you described it, the senses are everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told too. And so
And there's just something about it that's really neat where like you go to Europe and you're just like, okay, I actually really love Europe.
love Europe.
I have a soul that like belong. Like
Me
I just
too.
love it.
Yeah.
I actually get mad every time I go to Europe because I was like, the people that came to America were European.
Yep.
So why didn't I not bring like piazzas and cobblestone streets and really cool like fountains? Like why didn't you do it? I don't get it. Anyways, I love Europe. And I feel way more comfortable there than I did in India. Like I was like, oh, this is super familiar to me.
It's not quite like a different
So
world.
different.
It's still similar in some essence. Yeah.
But it's actually one of the things I really liked about India because it like challenged like the way I thought about things and challenged the way I felt about things. And so it was like, I was there and it just is like, you're looking around and you think, I can't believe that you and I are living on the same earth at the same time. Like, because my worldview is like this here, Utah County, where I'm just like, like this is the way I see the world, and I just kind of, and you know how you kind of think everybody just thinks the way you do and sees the things the way you do.
No.
Like to go there and just like what, like you and I will die someday. I think about these people and go to heaven and just be like, wait, what? You lived on Earth in 2024?
Yeah.
I was like, same. But our stories are so wildly different. That's and insane. And my personal like faith beliefs are that, but we're on Earth for the same purpose. And so it was just so crazy to like think through like,
wow.
I don't know. It just, anyways, really, really cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
no, I can't. That is that.
And I don't like Indian food for the record. So that wasn't even an appeal for me.
And so it was just such a change in everything.
And I think it's like cool because it took me out of so much of my, I mean, even time zone wise, they're 12 hours and 30 minutes
That's
different.
aggressive.
Do you know that they run on a 30-minute?
Oh, gosh.
Like they're not 12 hours. They're 12 hours and 30 minutes.
What do you mean?
Like so it's not
an
like
extra 30?
Yeah, they just add like, so when you like
the Indian government's just like, let's throw an extra 30 minutes.
Yes. Okay. Exactly.
Wow.
So if it's like 12 here, there it's not 12, it's 12:30. But like
it's never 12.
Hours. No. I mean, it is, but they're like not on with us. Does that make sense?
I was like 11:59, 12:30.
Okay.
We missed 30 minutes. No. 31 minutes is gone. It's 12:30 now.
You know, you're like in Italy, what time is it? You're like, oh, they're 7 hours ahead.
It's
or whatever. In India, they're 12 and a half hours ahead.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's
that's crazy.
Kind of wild. But the fact that you're like literally on the other side of the world, literally. Second, on the other side of the clock, literally. There was something about it being so different that it knocked you off. When something knocks you off your regular rhythms and routines, it like primes your heart to learn new lessons. Things. And you're just like, you're just ready for it.
So I
And
feel
so
like people need that.
that's what I thought
Need
too.
to be knocked off their rocker.
Yeah, it was
literally.
not restful. It
Yeah.
was not a vacation,
Yeah.
but an experience for sure.
And it changes your whole perspective,
Dude,
probably.
I flew home.
Is your lesson tonight gonna be based off of India, do you think?
I don't
Or
know.
do you
I
do you
feel
even
like now
know? Do you go into your lessons knowing a
Yeah.
basis you
Oh,
have?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. I was like, no
I know,
way.
like-
you raw dog the whole it's probably not the right terminology, but that's crazy. I was like,
No,
whoa.
dude, I know where I'm going. Does that
Okay.
make sense? Where
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, I know like what I want it to be about and where I go. And as long as I have that, then it allows me to just kind of do this along
It's
the
a
way,
flow.
you know?
Yeah.
But I know like, okay, I know where I want to land the plane kind of thing.
But then
Yeah.
you just work. That's amazing. Yeah, those classes
Well,
are insane.
yeah, well, that's nice. But
That's nice.
and I was gonna say not as magic as it seems because it like takes a lot of work. It's like I put like
There's a lot of prep.
it really is, and it's like that. I put more time into that than I probably do most things that I do during the week.
Wow.
You know, and so
I was going to talk to you about this. I talk about this with like almost every guest. A big part of my belief and just like I feel like when you have such a deep why, the how and the what just don't matter and they're irrelevant. Because when you're aligned with your why and your vision, nothing else matters. You'll just do it and it'll happen. And I like to formulate a why into like a triangle where it's kind of developed to 3 components. It's like your dreams, like why you're doing something, there's dreams. There's something looking forward to that you want in your vision. And then it kind of comes down to your people. Who are your people? Why are you doing it? For what people? And then it's like your revenge. And it's not, a lot of people hear revenge and they think, oh my gosh, like there's some dark. Who are you getting back at? Yeah. But it's not really that. You can formulate your revenge in ways of, you know, maybe it's for my inner child, or maybe it's revenge for myself that I'm not proud of who I was. But I wanted to just talk about those 3 components with you and kind of base this conversation on your why you are the way you are, and why you do what you do. Because you obviously have a light and energy, and I don't think your light and energy just popped out of nowhere. I think light and energy is also built off of action, words, things that you do. And so I guess to start with, I guess you can go into any 3 of those, really.
Yeah.
So like what's your why in general? And then if you want to kind of dive into your why.
Yeah, I actually really like those 3 things. So let's do one at a time. What was the first one? Dream?
Sure, your dreams, yeah.
I don't know. Right when you said that, I kind of thought for a second. I think I think my big dream is to make a difference. Like I want to like have come to this world and like left my prints in the sands of time, you know, in some way. Like I want to like do something meaningful.
Impact.
With my life. And that might sound super cliche, but I generally do. Like I'm just like I want to like I don't want to just I want to live here, you know? And I don't want to just be here and work and eat and sleep and then die and be gone. I don't know. There's something I have that in me that just wants to, you know, do something. I want to do something big. I want to do something like. Have you ever seen The Greatest Showman?
Yeah.
So that movie was actually really good for me because the main character kind of is like that too, right? Where he's just like
Dreamer.
This is the biggest show, you know, and he's like, you know, and then at the end of the movie, you guys, if you haven't seen it yet, it's too late. Like I am going to spoil it, and you should have seen it by now, so that's on you. But he sits at like his little girl's play, and like right when he sat down, I was like, oh my gosh, he better end the movie with "This is the greatest show." Like if they don't end the movie like that, they failed miserably, you know, because it doesn't. That's a good realization that it doesn't have to be on this gigantic scale, right? Because I know sometimes it can sound a little bit cliche and like, okay, to say like, you know, one person, you know, really does have enough value that if you were to spend your whole life and impact and influence only one person, it would be worth it. And I know that's like something that people talk about in church and other places, you know, like the value, the worth of a human soul.
Yeah.
And it can sound a little bit like, okay,
Yeah.
I know, I believe you.
The 99 and the 1.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. But then if you can put a name and a face to who that one person is, then all of a sudden that becomes true. Where you're just like, oh, I believe it now. You know? And so when I say I want to make an impact, I'm okay if it's, you know, on a small but
Small.
significant level, or a lot of people, you know. Um, but anyways, that's like, that drives me,
Yeah.
you know. In addition to like other things, like I love experiences and adventure and like people. I love people. It's my greatest love. Meeting new people, talking about people's stories. Like, so when you said who's your people as like one of the parts of the triangle, I was like, oh, I actually want mine to be all people. Like I like,
Yeah.
I can't leave anybody out. Like I'm so intrigued by
Yeah.
people and just what's your, like what's, you remember that movie We Bought a Zoo?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end, that girl, that kind of quirky girl, asks like the zookeeper. She was like, you know, who do you like better, the animals or the people? And they kind of look over at their friends, and then without the answer, the girl's like, me too, people. You know, like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just like that's such a cute line.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, I genuinely love like all people. I like, that's why I like going to new places, and like you can be 4 years old or like 91, and I'm so interested in
You.
that. Yeah, like I just, people are really cool,
Yeah.
you know, and they do really cool things. And Jenny's probably tired of this line, but like anytime I see a new store start or a new podcast pop up or a new show on Netflix or something, I seriously, like, I'm so proud of whoever made it. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
Like they went after their dream. They
Yeah,
did
yeah.
something like
Yeah, yeah.
that they were scared to do, and they did it. And I just,
You don't just see the surface level result. You can see the soul that went into what they did. You
Yeah.
can see that. You see far beyond, like, someone does something great, you're like, cool, but you recognize that there was a process that took to get to that, and that like
Yeah.
intrigues you.
yeah.
That's so sick.
And I just think people are like,
Have you always been like that, or do you feel like that's a gift as you've drawn closer to God, or do you feel like that's just always been instilled since a young kid
do you
that you
know
just
what?
loved people?
I think I always have.
Really?
I've always wanted to have a million friends. I always
Yeah.
wanted to, when I was little, I used to sleep on the floor of my bedroom, all the way up to my senior year, actually, with the door open up, just in case something fun was happening downstairs, and I was gonna miss out on it.
That's so sick.
So maybe FOMO actually does drive my why or whatever. But I honestly I was like, oh, what if someone comes over? Or like at 1 a.m. like they do? Or what if like, someone wakes up and they do something cool, and I don't want to miss out
Wow.
on what's happening.
That's
So
amazing.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm trying to figure out if I'm an introvert or extrovert. I read this definition. I really liked that it's based off of like where you get your energy from.
Yeah, that's
Do
where
you get it from quiet time, or do you get it from time with people? And I don't know if anyone's actually like
one or the
well,
other.
maybe they are.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just maybe I just drift between the two
Yeah.
so much that's what makes me
Do you
think
feel like
that.
you need one-on-one connection with people, or do you feel like you're okay with being in big groups and
No,
connecting with
100% one-on-one
you like
with people.
one-on-one?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Like
100%.
it's like winter time right now, and I get like punched in the face by
Yeah.
winter time.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it hits me kind of deeply. And I was actually talking to this lady the other day who was so smart, and she was talking about seasons, and she was like, oh, that's because your body goes through a winter season, and it like
It's like a
it
hibernation.
reflects more, and it tries to drop things out, and it tries to like face like demons from the past
Mm-hmm.
and just see what are we going to carry into spring. And,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
the earth kind of does that at winter. And she's like, so
Well,
does your,
what's the scripture that's like everything
has it,
connects back to Jesus? Like
oh, yeah.
everything has a
Oh, yeah,
relation.
yeah,
The
right?
world works in a weird way where
Yeah,
it's
where it
teaching our
just it
bodies.
shows you all of that. And so, anyways, I, so it's wintertime right now, and I over the last couple of years have become aware that, all right, David, you actually have to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
To like get out of like a winter funk.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite things to do is like lunch
Really,
with a friend.
you're
Like
the same person as me in that sense. Yeah,
I love it.
like a one-on-one lunch.
Oh my gosh. Like I live for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so last week I was kind of feeling that funk happen. And so
Mm-hmm.
every day this week I was like, I just filled every single day with somebody that I would go to lunch with because I'm like, I just love it. I genuinely like,
Yeah,
I like loving people too.
yeah.
You
I know.
like,
I feel it. It's not. It's not fake.
uh,
It's not fake. It's a
but
real.
I also understand like you can't love everybody
No, it's
super well.
Yeah.
Like you can be you almost use the word affectionate, but I guess that works. You
You
can
can't
like,
remember every face. You can't have all this
no,
perfect.
you can't like, and you can't like invest in. Like I remember this person in my life who I knew really needed like more attention than I could currently give at the time.
give at the time. Yeah.
And I knew that about them. I was
Mhm.
like, they need somebody, a really good friend,
Mm-hmm.
who can give them really intense attention. And I think they wanted me to be that person. And I just did not have the capacity
Yeah.
for it. Really, you probably have the capacity to genuinely love, 5 people well at a time.
Really, really well.
Like you just time-wise and
Yeah.
energy-wise, you just don't
It's true.
have it. I mean, we can send texts and
Yeah.
think of people
But the one-on-one
but the
connection.
really
yeah.
what people actually need,
Mm-hmm.
we only probably have room for just a handful of those, right?
Do you think it was the same with Jesus? Do you think he felt that way? Do you like what are your thoughts?
Because I'm so intrigued by the fact that
Because he had so many people probably in his pocket, not in his pocket, but you know what I mean. So many
Yeah.
people trying to just get a piece of a
Right.
little bit of piece of him,
Right.
and I can't imagine how he felt when he taught perfect love. But how did he have those perfect, genuine?
I think it comes back to like because some of the stories you love most, and I'm speaking like generally about Jesus, are his one-on-one encounters with people.
Yeah.
Where you see like a part of humanity in them that you can resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
Like one I was just thinking about the other day was, so he has these friends that seem to be dear friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Holy Week, the week of the crucifixion, most Bible scholars think on Wednesday of that week, he went to Bethany just to be with his closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that resonates with me, that he was like, before the betrayal on Thursday and before the crucifixion on Friday, what I'm going to do is spend Wednesday with people I love. And that resonates with me a lot. But one of his dear friends is a pair of sisters named Mary and Martha. And their brother dies, who was part of the posse. He's part of like the group of friends. And Jesus wasn't there, And when he shows up, she comes out and she was like, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see so much of like me and her, like a disappointment in God. Like, why weren't you here? Or in a friend even. Like, why didn't you come?
Yeah.
And so those moments that you see of one-on-one, and then the fact that he cries, right there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, that scene is so rich. Like, there's not enough words.
Yeah,
Scriptures aren't written with enough description.
No.
I think on purpose. One time I read a Bible scholar who said, they're written vague so that you use your imagination to like paint the picture.
And feel it.
And invest
in
with
it.
your imagination.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Wow.
But I was like, man, there's like that moment with them together is so sweet and it's so rich. And there's a lot of one-on-one moments that are like that. So I know he had them, a lot of them, and he also dealt with, you know, that groups of thousands of people, you know, who probably wanted one-on-one time and just wasn't logistically
available,
or possible, and plus, I don't know what's happening there with him. Like, Christians have debated this since like the first century. Like, was he fully God and fully human at the same time? Like, what was he? And I'm like, I actually don't know. I don't know. But
wow, that's such a cool. I love that story, and the way you put it is amazing. What for you? What are some of the foundational things when you sit with people that are really? Let's just like maybe hone in on the LDS faith, because that's where we are. We were in Utah.
Yeah.
It's like very evident, and you're part of the LDS faith. What is the go-to things that you say, or for people that are just genuinely struggling, and maybe feel in a sense that God has left, the classic, why do bad things happen to good people, and those realms. I know for myself, like, just to like, I served a mission, and like for me, like I have like pretty bad severe OCD, and it's like affected probably the last 13 to 15 years. I would go to like extensive, I just entered a outpatient facility. I go like 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Awesome. Like, very intense. I'm doing what I can, but and I know you don't have the answers probably. But for me, like, I have a challenge with really feeling that, that he sees me in a sense sometimes. And it's not a pity, like oh my gosh, I'm at the worst life and poor me and pity. It's not that. It's just sometimes I sometimes can't grasp, and it's hard for me because in my situation, it's been like, we're taught that when you obey a commandment, you receive the blessing and you have more joy. Yeah. And for me, I felt the opposite. Yeah. Not that I want to be rebellious, but it's been this weird thing for me. It's been a weird transition. It's weird having a relationship with him. It's not that I don't want it, and it's not that I don't love Jesus, but just that's like a too much information. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on not just me, but maybe people that feel that, and I always talk to people within this community that maybe feel those similar feelings, not just OCD, but maybe some other challenges and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things. Like, you asked what my go-to is, and I thought...
There's probably no go-to. It's like, he's got like this, he's got the silver line one card.
I'm like, oh, that's
this
the
quote
number
will
4.
Work. He's like, that's an A1. Yes, it's like bingo. All right, yeah.
But I do think if there's something that I'm pretty consistent on as a baseline, it's someone truly understanding the heart of God. Mm-hmm. Like, what is he actually like? Yeah. Because sometimes our experiences then, based on our experiences, we paint a picture of who he is. Mm-hmm. Based off of our experiences. And I want to say, no, that's just one of the reasons that I like Scripture so much, is let them paint a picture and a story of what he's like, of what his heart is like. Because your experiences could paint a God who's just uninterested in you.
Harsh.
Yeah, who's super demanding of you. Mm-hmm. But that's not the God I see in Scripture. Mm. And certainly that's not the God I see on the cross. I read this really thick book one time by a Bible scholar, and it was called Cross Vision. Mm-hmm. And he said, the greatest picture we have of the heart of God is Jesus on the cross. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the best description of his character that we've got in the whole book. Mm-hmm. So we want to compare every story we read in the whole book to that one, right? So you've got the flood story, and you're like, God seems super crazy, in the flood story. Yeah. And you're like, okay, now compare that to Jesus on the cross. Does that God on the cross look like somebody who's vengeful? It's like, no, He's not,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's somebody who was dying for his enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you're like, okay, so I must be missing something from the flood story
Mm-hmm.
because they don't line
Start to
up, you know?
compare. Yeah.
So he teaches it in a way it's like, oh, look at the rest of scripture through cross vision. And I want to teach people like, look through your life. Look at your life through cross vision. You know, he's like, he doesn't, if there's something happening in your life that leads you to a conclusion different than the character that you see on the cross, then
It's not.
yeah, because we can be so erratic in our emotions and in our thoughts and stuff. And so I need a moment in time that's steady and solid that can kind of be my North Star.
Always go back to.
Yeah. You know, and because I could
Wow.
hear someone almost saying, it's like, well,
No
if,
one talks about this.
you know, my experiences are my experiences, and why wouldn't they be my reality? And I would say, well, to some extent, yeah, but like, can we just talk about how like up and down emotions can be, and how like the way I feel tomorrow could be a reality, or it could be based off of something I ate yesterday. Like, there's just so
So many
much
variables.
that's a variable that I was like, where's my unmoving North Star? And for me personally, that's the heart and character of God and Jesus in the scene of the cross, where I'm just like, I look at that and I was like, I know you're on my side. I see how far that you were willing to go to rescue me. Like, I see the amount of love that you have. So if I'm not feeling it right now, or it feels like you've abandoned me, I have a moment in time, a story to compare it to say, but I know that's not what you're like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's happening in me
Yeah.
and why I can't hold on to it right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm missing something, you know, and I think we're advanced enough in culturally in our theology to say it was like, oh yeah, man, there's some things like OCD that would for sure prevent you
Mm-hmm.
from feeling a typical connection
Mm-hmm.
to God.
Yeah.
People have severe anxiety. They have depression.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who went through a terrible, terrible betrayal and tragedy. And he was like, I cannot feel the love of God right now when I need it the most.
Yeah.
And as I looked at his experience and thought, I felt deep compassion. And then I thought, oh my gosh, of course you can't. You were in the middle of a storm right now. You got hit by a truck.
Yeah.
And people who are in the ICU don't feel things spiritually very well. They can't.
Yeah.
They have to heal. They have to and so I think if you have that baseline of understanding his heart, and then there's just like particular situations, like in yours in particular, like to me, I think I'd ask, is this the way you feel with all people?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, do you have a hard time connecting and having a relationship with, people to your right and left?
It's weird because I do have genuine connections with everyone. I feel like I have that ability and I love people.
Yeah.
And when they're in my corner, I'll die for them, you know?
Yeah.
And that is a good way to think. And it's just this weird, it's like scary in a way. It's scary to dive in. And it's not scary because I'm gonna I'm scared because I don't want to keep the commandments, or I don't want to do this. And it's scary because I am such an all-in and extremism, and so it's like the fear always is living, and it's like I'm doing something wrong all the time and all that. And it really is like a lack of probably understanding his love. And I guess I wanted
Or
to ask.
maybe, sometimes like because of the OCD that you have, like you might not be able to wrap your mind around it the way somebody with a non-OCD brain
Thinking.
can, right?
Yeah.
And so my way of somebody who doesn't have OCD to the level that you do probably can't give you great advice on how to connect and relate to God, because I'm going to do it differently than
me.
yeah.
And it's not even a silver bullet answer that you can give. It's really, but I think that idea of looking I just think we live in a very perfectionist society, especially within like the LDS faith.
Yeah.
And I guess is why do you feel that is? Why do you feel that there is such a overwhelming and it's evidently so that it's a lot of times it's people that maybe don't quite get Jesus as much as they could.
Yeah, maybe so.
And that's where I'm like that it's so interesting because I meet people like you where I'm like, he gets Jesus. I just know
nice
he
of you.
does. But then it's so funny where you'll meet people within the church that maybe be leaders or whatever, and you just think, I don't know if they get Jesus fully, because I feel so much like pressure, judgment, so much,
Sure.
like this boiled up. And what do you think causes that idea of
This is actually a really good question, and now I kind of want to like dig into it with smart friends because I'm not smart enough to.
with smart friends?
You know,
it's not a question that everyone can have the answers to.
yeah,
but
sure, but
it's
I think
so interesting.
I bet like a really cool LDS sociologist could really tackle this question.
But I want you to tackle it because I feel you can tackle it.
Because
I'm cheering for David to tackle it. I want you to be the guy that tackles it.
Because part of me thinks, I took this personality test one time, and in the end of the personality test, they talk about some of like your gifts. But what they say is there's an attic and a basement to every one of your gifts. So that when your gift is thriving and living as it should be, they call that the attic, and you'll experience this. Mm-hmm. But every gift can also like live in the basement, where it's like there's a downfall to every one of the gifts as well. Mm-hmm. And so I'm actually thinking about that as well in context of what we're talking about, in that, okay, so we have this beautiful like doctrine and theology of progression, and in the attic, it's like, it's expansive and it's hopeful and it's encouraging and it's really cool that I can become someone more than I am. Mm-hmm. But maybe in its basement, it has like the risk of becoming super demanding and aggressive. Mm-hmm. And does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a really good way to put it. So it's like, it feels like
we must have some sort of theology, and maybe it's our theology of progression that can be beautiful, but it also can be manipulated either by others and or by ourselves into becoming something like that's not good and beautiful and is destructive. Same thing's true of like we have an unpaid clergy, and we have people who like serve in our church, like, and that can be super beautiful. There's like we're just in its most beautiful thing. We are just people trying to help each other home, man. Yeah. And that's actually like really cool. And like all of us are flawed at it, and we're just doing our best to help each other get home. Mm-hmm. And that would be the attic. Yeah. In the basement though.
More in the attic?
But I don't know, right? But do you see how like
yeah.
So in my mind, it's like, oh man, is it worth it? Is it worth the risk of the basement to have the attic? And I think yes. Yeah. Right? Like with everything in life. Are there risks in marriage? Are there risks in having kids? Mm-hmm. Are there risks in starting a business? Yeah. And is the risk is the risk for the attic worth worth that you might fall into the basement, with that? And for me, the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. And so I think like you just get that. So what do we get? We get like a neighbor down the street who like gets me because he lives in my neighborhood, and he's actually just an accountant and I'm a dentist, and like we're just like two dudes like trying to help each other out spiritually. Yeah. Like there's actually something really beautiful about that. But then you also risk the fact that we're going to have a Yahoo as a bishop, who's going to like take advantage of and use maybe his own insecurities and personality flaws and kind of give church hurt to people. And church hurts worse than other kind of hurt, because
it hurts a lot.
Church is where you're supposed to come to be vulnerable and safe and loved.
This is going to be an interesting question, and I know you'll have to go here soon, but...
Oh, yeah, where are we on?
Yeah, you'll have to go.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's like, okay.
We can have a part two.
We'll have to, but I actually do want to have a part 2, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
On another occasion.
Either on lunch or microphones.
On my lunch, either way, it doesn't matter because I'm glad. But this is one of my last questions, and I wanted to ask you. This is a weird question, but you obviously associate with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. However, you're so open and free, and you're so you're like a bird, and you're willing to see all the amazing things within other religions. I saw your post about the Muslim faith. I saw your post. You're very. You love Jesus and you love religion. You think religion. At least this is what I'm getting.
Yeah.
You appreciate the idea of worship.
Yeah.
And you think it's so sacred. What do you think what parts of cultures of other faiths do you wish we could just, if we could do it in one night, just overnight ship right to the LDS faith within our faith and the culture that we hold?
Whoa, that is such a good question. Okay, the first one that comes to mind is I guess a lot of Eastern religions. So I'm like, do I take a Taoist approach here or like a Hindu Buddhist approach? I don't know. Either are fine. And there's some overlap in some of those Eastern religions that are really cool. But there is a sense of everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
The Buddhas, like Siddhartha Gautama was his name, and his enlightenment happened on his 400th life. And even in that story, underlying that story is this idea of, hey, it's going to take time. It might take 400 lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going to work out. Take your time. I sat in a Sunday school class one time and of people just panicked about their kids and life and all these things. And I was I thought to myself, I was we are not acting like a people who believe in forever.
Wow.
I was is that not our theology?
It's our doctrine, isn't
it? We're a people who believe in forever. We're a people who have who believe in a built-in 1,000 years to get things right. Mm-hmm. With Jesus ruling and reigning on the earth.
Wow.
And I want to fix it by May. And it's
wow, it's so true. It is so true.
That is one thing that I was
and I want to fix it by May. Yeah, it's
I'm
true.
We're okay.
Wow.
And your kids.
And that's from, you said Hindu.
Well,
what was that? Was that Buddha?
Hindus and Buddhists believe it in.
What was that one that you just said? Was that Buddhism?
Yeah, both kind of. Hinduism, Buddhism Buddhists come from Hinduism.
Okay. And so that's the theology.
Kind of the theology of reincarnation is sort of this idea of you'll just, don't worry.
Everything's going to be okay.
You have a lot of time to figure this out. I was talking to a Hindu
where
once,
I feel, and like I said, this is not a place to sit down. I love the church. I'm grateful for it.
Sure,
it's
same.
not time to, but it is interesting that I've felt that countless times where it's, don't procrastinate the day of your repentance, which is great. You shouldn't.
Sure.
But at the same time, maybe it's an over focus on that as opposed to a.
I'm listen, that's one verse, and we have a really, really big book. So maybe we ought to you ought to counterbalance all the we don't want to again. We can go into the basement of don't procrastinate the day of your repentance pretty easily.
Uh-huh.
But there's an addict part of it too. Yeah. And the addict part says hey, take things seriously. You have this life to live and take advantage of it. And, it can be a way more gentle tone and really encouraging. Yeah. But we can't just hyper focus on one verse and one idea. I mean.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Last question I ask is the episode, the podcast in itself is called, and I would love to, I think I have more questions, whether it's in private or on the microphone, that I could ask you. I could sit with you for days. That 40 minutes to an hour is just not long enough. I feel like this sounds crazy, but I feel like you are my Jesus on this earth.
Oh, shut up.
No, really, David. I want you to know that. It's a weird feeling. I don't know why, but I feel that, and I feel I could really pick your brain.
I know, and I will say one thing to you. And it's this sense I had just about your own personal story. And I don't know, maybe I save it and say it to you off air. I will. So say your question.
Just the name of the podcast is Grit and Grace. It's like it's my favorite phrase. It's tattooed on my leg. How would you describe that? What comes to your mind when you hear Grit and Grace?
Just life. That's what I think. This, like, the thing that is like so raw and beautiful and hard and good about just life. Like, it just makes me think there's so much about this world that you're like, that's so hard, it's so gritty, it's so lifey.
Yeah.
And I say, I don't want it. And then, but if someone sat me down and said, but did you really want an easy life? Like, honestly, speak honestly. And I would say, no, it is through the grittiness of life that I have learned and become who I am. I heard someone say over when I was in India, they said, a heart that is stretched never goes back to the same size.
Wow.
And that to me is the grit part of, that's what I hear and think of, is that where it's like the day I spoke at my best friend's funeral, I was like, I did not like the grittiness of life. And yet, if someone asked, would you give it away though? And I would say, like, today, yes. But give me some time and I'll probably say no.
No. Yeah.
Because of the way it stretched my heart and the things I learned and the person I'm becoming through it all. Especially because I know the grace part, which is you're free to make mistakes and you're free to stumble. And in the end, I'm going to make everything all right. And so the grit's okay because I can experience and I can fail and my heart can break with the promise that one day everything will be okay.
Wow.
I don't know what the name means, but that's what I hear.
That's perfect. And I feel that's how Jesus lived. And I feel that's how you live, is through grit and grace, because you need both. But thank you so much for coming on.
Dude, of course.
Seriously, this is like a dream. This is to be continued. That's a wrap for potential part 1 on, maybe part 2 on microphone. Who knows? We'll see. But that's a wrap for this episode.